So this is a little piece around outcomes, and I did a piece like this for the actual business architecture course, which you can have a look at later down the track if need be. But just for this purposes, I'm going to outline again because it's really important to have to get used to the idea of having an outcome to chase. Business architecture helps you set up the architecture in the business so that you can build the business of your dreams. That's the whole point of this. So what we need to do is start to get firstly clear with what does the business of our dreams look like. And so there's 3 dimensions of outcomes that we're looking at. And I mean, here you are in the moment of now, and of course this makes it like a lot of sense. Being here in the moment and now, there is nowhere else you can be, so you might as well be here. But the whole idea is that what we want to do is go, all right, so we've got some multiple dimensions of outcomes that we can look at, and it's important to be able to put our mind in those different dimensions. And the first dimension that we look at here is the short term, and of course that makes sense. Thank you very much for the wise insight, Kevin. It's a short term, and look, to be honest, a lot of people nail this. We're very clear. A lot of people are very clear with what this part actually looks like. And so being clear with the short term is all about what's got to happen here and now. What's happening in the next week? What have I got to focus on and take action on this week, here and now? And so, like I said, a lot of people get used to this. They're stuck sometimes even in this frame of thinking and in just thinking short term and very tactical. The art of actually going slightly longer and going into this sphere here, where we start to look at long term. So the art of looking here is being able to go, all right, so further than the next few months, or further than the next year, or further down the track in my business, what does that actually look like? And I talk to a lot of business owners, and what they do tell me by this stage, and this is the kind of distance down the track that they're thinking. Often they'll give me, it'll either be, I want to step back. They'll want to step back, so they want to actually take a step away from the business. They don't want to be a part of the day-to-day, the running the operations of it. And they'll also tell me things like they want to pass it on, which is to say that, they want to still be in the business, still be involved in the business, still be wanting to run the business, but they might have kids coming through, or they might have other relatives or family or other partners in the business or whatever it might be that are coming through that they actually want to pass the business down to. Or they might tell me that they want to sell it. So one day they want to, a few years down the track, whatever it might be, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the track, they might tell me that they want to sell the business and they actually want to, be completely severed from it. That's it. Put it on the market. Someone else buys it. They get money, paid money for it. Awesome. So that's also an option. The fourth one, it's a rare one, but some of them have actually said to me they want to float it, take it public. That is a whole other conversation. We've got to put the same pieces of the puzzle in place, but it's going to be a very, very different context. So what we need to do is get clear with the long term. What is it? And look, you might be early on in your business. It's not saying let's set it in stone, but it is to say that, if we don't set an intention for what we're actually building here, then we can start to find ourselves going around and around and around and around in circles. And we might use up a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money building something, and then get to the end and actually not want or like what it is that we've built. So what we need to do is set an initial outcome. Let's get that initial outcome going. Let's get an idea of what it is that we'd like to do long term in the business, usually in terms of an exit strategy, and so that we can start building the business in order to be able to achieve that when you get there. There'll be nothing worse than getting to that point where you need an option to take and there is no option for you to take aside from, do something with this dead duck that you've built that's reliant on you and not valuable in the marketplace. And it could be a great business by that point, but it is to say also that, hey, it could be a great business, but it may not be a valuable business. And so there's a big difference between that. And then the last thing here is legacy. So we've got our legacy outcomes as well. We need to be making sure that, as a human being, you've got goals, you've got aspirations, you are an emotional being. There at some point in time, there's going to come a day, a minute, a second where you take your last breath in this world. And it's not to turn this conversation morbid, but it is to have the real conversation. If we're not clear on how we want to leave this earth or leave this world, or, if we're not clear on what it is, and one of the questions I ask in philosophy is, what would you love people to say about you at your funeral? And like I say, it's a big thing to talk about, but if we're not clear on that, then it really takes away and starts to diminish that overall energy, that overall direction. And often what we can find is that, once we get clear with how we want to leave the earth, what sort of a legacy we want to leave, then when that gets clear, then that can often help clarify what the long-term goal has to look like. And when the long-term goals get clarified, that also happens to help out with the short term. So if we put our minds into these 3 dimensions, and obviously we've got the first one here, put our mind in the first dimension, which is the short term, which is making sure that here and now, tactically, operationally, we're set, we're good, we're on the way. And then we look at long term. Long term being, what do you want to do years and years down the track, not necessarily in the next 12 months. That's where your short term goal or short term thinking comes in. But further down the track and looking at perhaps an exit strategy, what does that look like? And then we've got the legacy, right? Which is a very personal thing for you, but it's really, really important to understand what that looks like for you. How you leave this earth is really important. People that the people that you impact, your family and the such, they'll all still be around. And so life doesn't become about how much money you can make or anything like that. It becomes about the experiences that you can have while you're here and the state that you leave it when you go. And so being clear with that is also really important. So I'm gonna put these 3 questions up in the module. Feel free to take the time. I'll also put this in a sheet that you can download. Take the time to go through it, list it all out, answer the questions in the module, and we'll discuss it further. And I'll see you in the next video.